I just watched part of the Laura Ingraham show where she had Rob Reiner on, and I guess, excuse me, she had met him in in a restaurant by chance in Los Angeles. He came on the show, and I mean, she's just kissing his ass, talking about how Billy Crystal is another one of her favorites, and he says to her, "Look, the reason that there are so many left wingers in the quote unquote arts is because they have a more open mind." And he tries to make it this kind of backhanded comp insult where it's like Republicans know they're right, whereas Democrats wonder if they're wrong. When I think it's actually the complete opposite. And even if you just look at the way that Republicans are essentially playing the good cop, bad cop game with the Democrat agenda, I mean, they give in to everything. So if they were so sure that they were right, then why did they just sort of play the concerned parent in that dynamic? The left and the Democrats are the ones who think that they are completely right, no questions. The Republicans are just like, hey, could we not go this far? Could we kind of push back a little at this issue? Do you think, we should leave the door open? You know what I mean? Stuff like that. So it's just totally wrong. But also, I mean, and she just didn't even argue with it. It just pisses me off. I realize these are the people, we need to get rid of all of these people pretty much. With some exceptions, these people are all, they've been in the machine too long. They are profiting from this dynamic. They have made fortunes. They have made careers. They have made names off of this dynamic of destruction of our society, you know. And because the thing is that wouldn't she push back and go, you know what, Rainier, whatever. And I like Spinal Tap. That was a good movie. The movies suck, Rob. The TV shows suck, Rob. It's crap. And even if you just want to go based on market forces, movie attendance is at like a 25-year low. It's shit. You're not better artists. You're not more open-minded. You're much more narrow, closed-minded. Let's look at the greatest writers. They're people, Rob, that make you shit your pants, like Celine. Okay, Celine makes you shit your pants, Rob. Okay, and on and on and on. So, but she doesn't. She just sort of goes, "It's so nice for you to be on my show. Oh, I love Billy Crystal so much too." You know what I mean? It's like, what the fuck? And the thing is that actually, I mean, it's first of all, it's not that there's just because you have a job assignment that is considered artistic, it doesn't mean that you're a good artist, right? Just because you try to build a house doesn't mean that you create that you're a good carpenter. And the actual number of really great artists is very small. It's small in absolute numbers, and it's especially small in terms of percentage of people who have done those endeavors, who have written books, who have painted paintings, who have made movies. Now, movies is a more specialized thing, you know what I mean, compared to writing a book and painting, which a common person can write a book and create paintings, right? A common person cannot direct a movie. Now, you can talk about the technology changing today, and maybe there's certain ways, but historically and really still to this degree, that's not true. So that's its own niche industry with a lot of factors in like nepotism and other things that don't. There's not a lot of like nepotism in writing. You know what I mean? Especially like in terms of fiction. I mean, like if you're related to, let's say, um, Kennedy or Martin Luther King, you're going to get a book deal, right? If you're their son or something, right? So that would be an example of nepotism. But that would be for nonfiction. In terms of fiction, maybe you could stretch that for fiction, but for fiction, it's really nepotism doesn't help you out, and that's the same for painting, generally speaking. Nepotism doesn't help you out. Now, in terms of becoming a director, there's a lot of nepotism, and there's a lot of other factors that play into that. But still, the number of great directors, or maybe even you'd say, well, of course, due to that as a result as well, is very small compared to the amount of people who have made movies. Um, So it's not a question of just who's doing this. It's a question of what is the product. And it's also a question of a small minority. And if we look at it historically, you have to make the assumption that a lot of people, Michelangelo, Van Gogh, etc., are not um, on the left by today's standards, if at all, and would probably be shocked and appalled by some of the beliefs that a Rob Reiner and Billy Crystal consider to be unquestionable. They would be shocked by them and appalled by them, right? So as we see this incredible imbalance in the quote unquote arts today, we also see probably the greatest drought of quality art that the Western world has ever gone through. That's why I can't think of a living author that is really great. Now, listen, I shouldn't, there probably are some, obviously, but I can't think of any. Can you? And I'm not just talking about the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, the United Canada, wherever, Russia. I mean, who is the really great author? If we go back 50 years, there's tons, right? And then you keep going back from there, tons, tons, tons. And philosophers, who's the great philosopher today that's writing? Who's the great painter? And even director, even for that niche environment that is, highly has factors that are not based on talent still. Who's the great director? Steven Spielberg? Are you fucking kidding me? Ridley Scott? So I mean, there isn't any good quality in the arts today. So the balance has probably never been so off kilter or so, concentrated and in one way and in such an extreme way, because the basic Democrat liberal view, based on even just the criterions of 20 years ago, is extreme, right? There's nothing good. They're not making any good art. So it doesn't matter if you say you're a carpenter and you can't build a shack. It doesn't mean that we should respect you as being a carpenter. These are the artists on the left today generally suck. They suck really horribly, and it's a disservice to the entire society. And they're not producing anyone. They're not, mark my words, they're not going to produce anyone from this period who will be considered a great artist in 100 years. And if they do, it'll be considered in the same way that like Soviet writers were considered great in the Soviet Union. And as soon as the Soviet Union collapsed, you can't name a single Soviet writer. They had a whole roster of Soviet writers in the Soviet Union that were like, they're great, socialist writers. They all went straight into the trash can in 1991.